once not that long ago with looking for an image of Jeremy Sims.
Vera Deacon, who has very kindly agreed to open the Radical Newcastle Symposium. And Vera will need no introduction to most of you, but I think in many ways she is really the living embodiment of a radical Newcastle spirit, and her life is coextensive with many of the radical ideas and places and events of 20th century Newcastle. Whether it be Mayfield and the Hunter River, VHP, where her father worked, depression camps, the war, the Communist Party of Newcastle, the Ban the Bomb campaign, and many other things besides. And Vera's impressive convict pedigree also connects us with colonial Newcastle. And I listened via YouTube with great interest to a guest address Vera gave at an International Women's Day dinner in March this year, an event sponsored by the Newcastle branch, or the branch of the Union of Australian Women. And what impressed me most was the sheer diversity of topics that Vera could speak to from the vantage point of great personal experience and insight. So really, who better to open the symposium than one of the city's great radical doyens herself, Vera Deacon.
James is more gentle. I'm really honoured to ask. I think you can see that things have changed a great deal in Newcastle since the 26th of March 1944, when I rode across the river with my father from Mosquito Island, walked up Ingalls Street to Mayfield, a little hall in Maitland Road, Mayfield, just along from Victoria Street, where the Salvation Army Hall was. It's occupied by another face now. And there I walked into a room and there were over 100 people. The purpose of the meeting was to call for a second front in Europe. And the meeting was chaired by a blue-eyed woman with a lovely smile, Min Wilson, something out of my experience. I was then 17, going on 18. Rather gauche, because we lived on an island and we didn't have a lot of, Anyway, I joined the Communist Party with about 8 or 9 other people. And lots of people were horrified, but don't forget it was the Second World War and we were all imbued by the amazing feats of the Red Army. There were a few cynics around who said, oh, well, there were a lot of radishes, red on the outside and white on the inside. Well, the Cold War may have proved some of that. But I'm just saying, that things have moved on since then. I was very fortunate because I became a member of a group of people who were intensely idealistic and determined to make the world better. And it's not true that they were all corrupt and out to aggrandise themselves and get power and abuse the users of it. So I was very fortunate. They encouraged me to get greater education because I finished school at 13. Jean Bailey and Bill and Murray Golan and Les Bailey. There were a whole lot of teachers, and they built up my self-confidence gradually. So having said that, I have lots of memories of Newcastle. You'd be surprised at the story we could write about the Communist Party headquarters here at 186 Hunter Street, just over from the telecom building. NOB occupied it for a while. And so forth. There are whole lots of places. Naturally, because we lived on an island and we rode across the South Channel and up into Patch Channel, we passed VHP. It was a very big feature of our life. I developed what you might call a love-hate relationship. I hated it for what it was doing to the river, and my father and all his fishing and crawling friends and the farmers felt the same. But it wasn't exactly love. I was fascinated with the works because it is a compelling image grinding away there on the shore, and a man who lived down half a mile down the river bank from us, he'd crossed the river to help build the steelworks, and he worked in the open hearth, a very compelling hot place, went inside the open hearth ovens to clear out the destroyed silica brick. I'm filled with his stories. Probably BHP management knew that a magazine called USSR in Construction was taken into the open hearth of the BHP by old Jim Clark, who worked there. Little memories like that. I'm probably getting off the direct purpose of this Radical Symposium, but there are some of the memories. So I was fascinated by the works, and eventually I was able to go over it many times after the war because the company opened up and they did conducted tours, and I was able to see a great deal and ask a lot of questions, and they were always willingly and keenly answered. I was taken down coal mines when I was 18 and 19, John Darling Pit, Wallara Pit, North Wallara out at Swansea, where you just walked into a hole in the ground and was a pump pumping the water out. So I've been fortunate by the people I was surrounded with, and all of them were keen to have a better world, and we were calling for these more schools, community centres. We wanted a university, not just the communists and the trade union movement, but the students at Ties Hill Tech. We were calling for it. There were a lot of people who preceded that, but we were determined to make, well, we've moved on. Look at our wonderful university, look at the radical role it's playing in the community. So I welcome this, and I thank Jim for giving me the chance to open it. I'm not ashamed of being a communist. We had suffered a great deal of what I term spiritual agony when we found out some of the things. I still have Khrushchev's secret speech at home, but even so I know that there were millions and millions of loyal and decent people in the former Soviet Union who struggled to make their way of life, coming out of Tsarism and the First World War and the counter-revolution, all that sort of stuff. But I've just read Anthony Beevor's History of the Second World War, and it's absolutely shattering to read it. The great armies pitched and the dreadful crimes committed against humanity on both sides. That's what war does. We're still teetering on it. I honour the people who came before me because they imbued me to stand up for peace and for a better way of life ahead for humanity. So I have pleasure now, after that, in declaring the symposium open, and thank you very much. I'm a very cheap drunk.